Though we did make a second meal from the leftovers. That's a hefty price compared to the same meal from the industrial food chain. So why buy organic anyway? Is the extra cost worth it? What exactly are you paying for? Does organic food taste better? I think the answer is probably, but not always. A fresh picked non organic vegetable is bound to taste better than the one that's been riding in a truck for 3 days. On the other hand, organic Rosie was a tasty bird, with more flavor than mass market birds fed on a diet of antibiotics and animal byproducts. Those unnatural feeds makes chickens much mushier and blander meat. Okay, so organic foods sometimes taste better, but is it better for you? I think the answer to this is also yes, but I can't prove it scientifically. I know the dinner is prepared contained little or no pesticides. Those chemicals have been proven to cause cancer, damage nerve cells, and disrupt your endocrine system, your hormones. These poisons are routinely found in non-organic produce and meat. Yet I can't prove that the low levels of these poisons in food are enough to make you sick. The government says the levels are low enough that your systems can tolerate them. Very little research has been done to determine the effects of low levels of these poisons. One problem is that the officials' tolerance level are set for adults, not children. Since children are smaller and still growing, the danger for them is greater than for adults. Given what we do know about the dangers of these chemicals, it makes sense to keep them out of a kid's diet. It was important to me that the organic ice cream came from cows that did not receive injections of growth hormones to boost their productivity. We don't know if these hormones are affecting kids who drink non-organic milk, but again, I think it's better to avoid them. Also, organic cows like Rosie, the organic chicken, are never fed corn that contains residuals of atrazine and herbicide commonly sprayed on American cornfields. The tiniest amount of this chemical, 0.1 part per billion, has been shown to change the sex of a frog. There's been no study to show what it does to children. So it seems to me I have two choices. I can wait for that study to be done, or I can decide that it's better to be safe than sorry and buy foods without atrazine. As you may recall from Chapter 4, although the U.S. government allows atrazine spraying, the chemical is already banned in Europe. Okay, getting rid of poisons is a no-brainer, but there's still another question about organic food. Is it healthier for you? Does it contain more nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and natural substances that our bodies need to stay healthy? As far as the USDA is concerned, all carrots are created equal, organic and non-organic. Yet there is some real evidence that this is not so. In 2003, a study by University of California, Davis researchers studied two crops of corn, strawberries and blackberries. The plants were identical and grown in side-by-side pots. One set of plants was grown using organic methods. The other set was grown conventionally with chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. The study showed that organic fruits and vegetables contain higher levels of vitamin C. They also had a wider range of natural chemicals called polyphenols. Polyphenols are a group of chemicals made by plants that seem to play an important role in human health. Some help prevent or fight cancer. Others fight infections. You may have seen one of these polyphenols advertised on your ketchup bottle, one called lycopene. There are many others. Why in the world should organically grown blackberries or corn contain more of these polyphenols? Well, these compounds help plants to defend themselves against pests and diseases. Perhaps plants that are sprayed with man-made pesticides don't bother to produce much of their own. The soils in industrial farms are often lifeless. Perhaps these dead soils don't supply all the raw ingredients plants need to make polyphenols. Artificial fertilizer may be enough to get plants to grow, yet still may not give a plant everything it needs to make enough lycopene or resveratrol, another one of the polyphenols. Here is what we do know. We have evolved over millions of years eating plants that today we would call natural or organic. Those plants growing in the complex living soils produced polyphenols to protect themselves from pests and diseases. Our bodies evolved to use those same compounds to protect us from disease. Yet, in the last 50 years, we have built a food system that strips many of those healthy compounds out of our food. Who knows what other healthy substances are in plants that we have yet to discover? The industrial food chain breaks all food down into a few simple elements, but what if our bodies need more than that? The evidence is starting to come in that this is the case. I hope I've made it clear that I think organic industrial food is a big improvement over the non-organic food chain. To grow the plants and animals that made up my meal, no pesticides found their way into any farm worker's bloodstream, no nitrogen runoff seeped into the watershed, no soils were poisoned, no antibiotics were wasted, no government subsidy checks were written. And yet, the wages and working conditions of the farm workers in an organic field aren't much different from those on non-organic factory farms. Organic factory farm chickens live only slightly better lives than non-organic factory chickens. And in the end, a CAFO is a CAFO, whether the cattle are fed organic corn or not. An organic label does not guarantee that cattle have spent any time in a real pasture, any more than free-range chickens really range freely. To top it off, my industrial organic meal is nearly as drenched in fossil fuel as the non-organic meal. Asparagus travels in a 747 from Argentina. Blackberries trucked up from Mexico. A salad chilled to 36 degrees from the moment it was picked to the moment I walk in and out the doors of my supermarket. That takes a lot of energy and a lot of fossil fuel. Organic farmers generally use less fuel to grow their crops, yet most of the fuel burned by my food industry isn't used to grow the food. Almost 80% of the fuel burned is used to process food and move it around. This is just as true for an organic bag of lettuce as a non-organic one. The organic the original organic food movement thought organic farming should be sustainable. That means it should be as much as possible a closed loop, recycling fertility and using renewable energy. The industrial organic food chain is anything but a closed renewable loop. The food in our organic meal had floated to us on a sea of petroleum just as surely as the corn-based meal we had from McDonald's. Well, at least we didn't eat it in the car. But I wasn't done searching for more responsible food. As part of my research, I kept hearing about this incredible farmer in Virginia. His name was Joel Salatin, and he and his family ran a 500-acre spread called Polyface Farm near the town of Swoop. So I gave him a call. I wanted to interview him, and I also wanted him to ship me some of his food so I could taste it myself. Well, I got my interview, but Salatin said he couldn't ship me any chicken or steak. I figured he meant he wasn't set up for shipping, so I offered him my FedEx account number. No, I don't think you understand. I don't believe it's sustainable, or organic, if you will, to FedEx me all around the country. I'm sorry, but I can't do it. This man was serious. He explained that just because we can ship organic lettuce from California or organic apples from Chile doesn't mean we should do it. Shipping food thousands of miles and burning up fossil fuels went against his whole philosophy as a farmer. I'm afraid if you want to try some of our chickens, he said, you're going to have to drive down here to Swoop and pick it up. It turns out there's another food chain in America, one that looks very different from the industrial farms that I had been visiting. It's based on a small family farm like the Salatins, which practice true sustainable farming. These farms aren't owned by big agribusiness corporations. They don't ship their vegetables and meat across the country or across the globe. In fact, they look more like the picture I had of an organic farm when I had started out. So I decided to take Joel Salatin up on the offer he extended when I told him about my book. I decided to go to Virginia to see his farm firsthand. My wife called it my Paris Hilton adventure, and she was right. I was about to do a lot of hard work I wasn't quite ready for. I was also about to find out how different an organic farm could be.